You know that voice in your head, the one that whispers, "You're not enough," tells you you're too old to start over, reminds you of every mistake you've ever made? What if I told you that that same ruthless inner critic could become your most powerful champion? Today, I'm sharing how to transform that harsh internal dialogue without spending years in therapy. Stay with me because this changes everything, especially if you're in your midlife. I'm Pamela, and if you're over 40, chances are you've been battling that inner voice for decades. It started small, maybe in your 20s, when it questioned your career choices. By your 30s, it expanded its territory, criticizing your parenting, your relationships, your body. Now, in your 40s and beyond, it feels relentless. Here's what most people don't realize: that inner critic isn't your enemy. It's actually a misguided protector that learned its harsh tactics when you were young and vulnerable. The problem isn't the voice itself, it's that nobody taught you how to redirect that energy. Today, I'm introducing you to a shift that I teach from my positive perspective method that will fundamentally change this relationship. By the end of this video, you'll have practical tools to start this transformation immediately. Picture this scenario. You're getting ready for work and that voice starts its morning routine. It critiques your outfit choice, reminds you about the presentation you're nervous about, questions whether you're qualified for the promotion you want. By the time you've had your coffee, you're already emotionally exhausted. Or imagine you're scrolling through social media and see a friend starting something new at age 50, and instead of feeling inspired, that inner voice immediately compares and criticizes. "You're too old for big changes. Look how put together she is compared to you. You missed your window." This constant internal conversation creates what I call decision paralysis. You second guess everything from small choices like what to wear to a major life decision like career changes or relationships. You become your own worst enemy, holding yourself back from the very experience that could bring you joy and fulfillment. The exhaustion is real. You're fighting a war inside your own mind every single day. And here's the thing: this battle can end. Now imagine waking up and hearing a different kind of internal conversation. Instead of harsh criticism, you hear supportive guidance. Instead of fear-based warnings, you receive wisdom-based insights. Picture that same inner critic voice saying things like, "This decision feels aligned with your values," or "You've handled challenges like this before, you've got this. Let's approach this with curiosity instead of judgment." When your inner critic becomes your ally, decision-making transforms from agonizing to empowering. You still receive feedback and guidance, but it comes from a place of love and support rather than fear and control. You start taking aligned action because you trust your internal wisdom. This isn't about silencing that voice or pretending everything is perfect. It's about redirecting its protective energy into supportive energy. Think of it as having a wise, loving mentor living inside your mind instead of this harsh critic. When you make this shift, you feel lighter, more confident. You feel like at peace with yourself. You'll make decisions faster, take calculated risks, and genuinely enjoy your own company. The constant mental chatter that once drained your energy becomes a source of clarity and strength. If you're thinking this sounds too good to be true, I understand. But let me share how this transformation actually works. Here's what happens when you truly understand the origin and purpose of your inner critic. Your inner critic developed during your formative years as a survival strategy. When you were young, fitting in and avoiding rejection were literally matters of life and death. That critical voice learned to scan for potential threats to your social acceptance, your safety, your belonging. It was constantly on alert for ways you might fail or be rejected. The challenge is that this protective system never got the memo that you're now an adult, capable of handling complex situations. It's still operating from outdated programming, trying to keep you safe, using childhood logic. But you are an adult now. Recognition involves 3 steps. First, you acknowledge that the inner critic is a part of you, not the whole truth about you. When you hear harsh self-talk, you mentally step back and think, there's that protective part of me speaking up. This creates space between you and the voice. This is when you pause. Second, you recognize the underlying need behind the criticism. Usually it's trying to help you belong, succeed, or avoid pain. Instead of fighting that voice, you appreciate its intention while questioning its method. And third, you recognize your power to respond rather than react. You can thank that protective part for its concern and then consciously choose how to move forward. Let me give you a practical example of how this would work. Imagine your inner critic says, you're not qualified for that promotion. Instead of accepting this as fact or fighting it, you recognize, there's my protective voice trying to keep me safe from potential rejection. Then you can respond, thank you for wanting to protect me. Let's look at this situation with curiosity and wisdom instead of fear. This shift from automatic reaction to conscious response is the foundation of inner critic transformation. You're not silencing the voice, you're changing your relationship with it. And here's something fascinating. Your brain's neuroplasticity uses these new patterns of inner self-talk and starts to replace the old patterns that are no longer serving you, regardless of your age. I want to share something personal with you. My own inner critic was not nice about my abilities to succeed in life. For years, it convinced me I wasn't capable enough to pursue my dreams. The turning point came when I realized I was treating myself worse than I would ever treat a stranger. I started applying the recognition principle, and something remarkable happened. Instead of constant self-attack, I began having internal conversations that felt more like consulting with a wise friend. That harsh voice that once said, "You're too old," gradually transformed into supportive guidance. The biggest change was in my decision making. Instead of agonizing over choices or avoiding them entirely, I learned to access my inner wisdom. The same mental energy that once created anxiety now created clarity and confidence. This transformation didn't require years of therapy or expensive programs. It required just simply understanding how my mind worked and consistently applying these new patterns. And if I could do this in my 50s, you can too, regardless of your age or how long you've been struggling with your self-criticism. Before we wrap up, here are 3 techniques you can apply immediately. First, practice the observer voice. When you notice self-criticism, mentally step back and say, I notice I'm being critical right now. This creates space and perspective. Second, use the curiosity question. Instead of accepting harsh judgments, ask yourself, what is this voice trying to protect me from? Or what would I tell a good friend in this situation? This shift moves you from criticism to compassion. And third, appreciation practice. At the end of each day, acknowledge just one thing your inner voice helped you with, even if it was overly harsh. This begins to build a positive relationship rather than a negative one. These techniques might feel awkward at first, but remember, you're rewiring decades of mental patterns. So be patient with yourself as you practice. The shift from critic to ally is a journey, not a destination, and every small change creates momentum for bigger transformations. If you feel your inner critic sometimes gets the best of you, I've created a free guide that walks you through all 5 shifts from my positive perspective method. Recognition is just the beginning. Download the free guide using the link in the description below and start your complete transformation today. Which technique will you try first? Let me know in the comments. And if this information was helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, be kind to yourself. You're worth it.